Hey everyone, welcome back. This is part 2 of West and Central African geography. Let's go ahead and jump right in and not waste any time. We're going to be talking about life in West and Central Africa, beginning with people and the land. The environment of West and Central Africa affects where and how people live. What the land and climate will support often affects how people make a living. So based on the type of weather and what kind of land they have, people do different things to make money. Take Chad as an example. Less than 3% of Chad is arable land, or land fit for farming. The desert areas of northern Chad support only a few groups of people. They are nomads, or people who move from place to place without a permanent home. The nomads who live in Chad raise camels and a few crops in oases. Remember those areas where the water comes up from the ground? We talked about that in previous days with North Africa. In central Chad, people raise cattle on the savanna. In the wetter south, people grow cotton on land that was once rainforest. Nearly half of Chad's people live in the south. So most of the people of Chad are living in that southern part where they can grow crops. Many people in the region use land to farm and graze animals, although not always harmful. This use of land can hurt the environment. Okay, so if you have your animals there for too long and they eat away all the grass, that damages the land. During dry periods in the Sahel, herders allow too many of their animals to graze. In addition, people also chop down trees for firewood or to sell. These uses combined with drought caused parts of the Sahel to dry out and become desert. This change from arable land or farmable land to desert is called desertification. Desertification. Chad and other Sahel nations are working on ways to stop desertification. All right, population. Before we jump into this, just real quick talking about Chad. So if you look at Chad right here, I'll circle it for you guys. Okay. In the north is that desert part, and that's where all those nomads are living. Okay. And then kind of in the middle-ish here to this area, okay, that is the Sahara, or excuse me, not the Sahara, pardon me, the savanna where they're raising cattle. Okay, so they're having their cattle feast on some grasslands. And then down here in the south, okay, is where you're starting to get more rain, and so you can have farms and grow crops there like cotton. All right, so that's kind of what's going on in Chad. Continuing on, population. Just as the environment affects what people do for a living, it also affects where they live. As you have read, Nigeria has plenty of land that is good for farming. Okay, well, we haven't read that yet, but Nigeria does have plenty of land that is good for farming. So if you look at Nigeria right here, it's more towards the south. Okay. It also has the largest population in the region and is the most populous nation in all of Africa. Okay, because the land is so usable in Nigeria, it does have a ton of people, 148 million people to be exact. To give you guys some reference, we only have 360 million people in the United States. In contrast, fewer people live in countries that are in desert regions. So there are very few people that live in Mali, Niger, Chad, and Mauritania. Okay? In this region of Africa, most people do farm or raise livestock. Okay, so most people are farming either crops or they have cows, cattle, stuff like that. However, more and more people are moving to cities such as Lagos in Nigeria or Accra, I hope I pronounced that correctly, or Accra in Ghana. Okay, so people are starting to move to larger cities. People move to cities to look for work because the season's crops have failed. Okay, conflict forces others from their homes. Some move away from the Sahel because of desertification. The desert spreads to where they raised animals or crops. So there's lots of reasons that people are moving to the cities. Farming is starting to fail some people either due to desertification or because there's droughts, okay, or there's conflict, which we're going to talk about later in this unit. There's lots of conflict in Africa, whether it be over diamonds or civil wars, things like that are going to cause lots of conflict. And because of that, people are moving from those areas where war is happening into major cities. Okay. Unfortunately, the city doesn't always hold a better life for them because the cities are growing so quickly. They are overcrowded. There are shortages of good housing and good jobs. Moving on to the problem of disease. This will be a common theme as we continue with Africa. Some big environmental changes in West and Central Africa come in very small packages. Insects. Insects carry parasites or small organisms that live off of a larger organism. The tsetse, I think you actually pronounce it tsetse fly. Okay, the tsetse fly spreads a parasite that causes a disease known as sleeping sickness. It is fatal, meaning it kills both humans and cattle. This fly limits where cattle can be raised and where people can live. Mosquitoes spread malaria, another life-threatening disease caused by parasites. Mosquitoes thrive in environments that are hot and wet. So if you remember, West and Central Africa has lots of wet and hot areas. Therefore, malaria is common throughout the tropical, subtropical regions of Africa. 90% of deaths from malaria occur in these regions. And let me go ahead and fix this. This should say and subtropical. Some diseases are both treatable and preventable. Sadly, many people in this region cannot afford to take even the simplest measures to protect themselves. Okay, so disease is a huge problem in Africa. One, because they live in a region where mosquitoes easily pass diseases through parasites, and also because not everyone can get medical treatment when the diseases are preventable. Okay, all right. Lastly, let's talk about religion in West and Central Africa. Before contact with the outside world, ethnic groups throughout the region developed their own religions. Then, new religions were introduced through trading networks. Islam spread south from the Sahara. If you guys remember, Northern Africa is mostly Islamic. Mali, for example, has an overwhelmingly Muslim population. Next, Europeans brought Christianity to the region. For example, in Angola, many ethnic groups practice religions based on ancestor worship and local deities. After the arrival of Portuguese in the 1400s, many people went from what was their original regional religions to Christianity, and they adopted Christianity brought by the Europeans. Okay? All right. That is everything you guys need to know about West and Central African geography. Once you have read this, you'll jump over to the questions tied to this reading. I'll go ahead and read through them. However, you do need to answer them on your own time. All right, number one, West and Central Africa has areas that are very wet and areas that are very dry. Okay, true or false? Is that true? Do they have both of those regions or do they only have one of them? What do you know? Okay, you should know that pretty easily based on the reading. Number two, what is the average rainfall of Kenesha during the month of November? Okay, so you'll have to go back to this chart. Okay, back to this chart here and tell me what is the average rainfall during the month of November. Number three, what is desertification? Pardon me, it's a tough word to say. Number four, what is one example of why people would move to the cities? What are some reasons why they're moving? Number five, what is one of the diseases West and Central Africa has to deal with? I should say have to deal with. Let me fix that. And how does it spread? Okay, pick one of those diseases that is affecting this area and tell me how it's spreading. And then number six, who brought Christianity to Angola? Okay, so go ahead and answer those questions either in the document here on Google Classroom or on a sheet of paper. Otherwise, that is all for today. Hope you guys have had a great day. Thanks for listening. Talk to you later.